Today, leaders, athletes, and changemakers are gathering at the ESPNW Women in Sport Conference at Evergreen Brick Works.
Yeah, that's where we find Jen Lee this morning, live with a look at how this powerful event is shaping the future of sport and also spotlighting the voices driving real change. Sounds like a great morning, G. It will be a great morning when we connect with G. Maybe we should go to a break right now and then come back with... Oh, there's G.
Hey, G. Good to see you.
Hi. Good morning. That's right. The doors are going to open at 9:30, and that's when over 300 people are going to be coming here for the ESPNW Summit. This is the third annual event, and you can see they're setting things up for the guests. Joining me now is Jessica Doherty. She is with Torque. They're the agency that puts on this event. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
I know, it's very busy here.
Yeah.
So what can people expect when they come to the ESPNW Summit?
Yeah, so the ESPNW Summit Canada, it's presented by Canadian Tire, and it's just a gathering of 350 industry leaders, athletes, some of the leagues and teams that have popped up recently in women's sport. Really, we're all coming together to help propel the momentum of women's sport and continue to see the growth in Canada.
And we are seeing a huge growth.
We are, yeah. Even since our first event 3 years ago, where we had no professional leagues and teams, now we're on the cusp of three with the Tempo, the Northern Super League, and the PWHL, of course. And really, we've commissioned some research with IMI International, and we've seen that actually 76% of Canadians now consider themselves fans of women's sport, which is enormous.
That is enormous. Okay, let's walk on through here, because this is sort of the receiving area. Then you come into the main area here, where you're going to have world-class speakers take to the stage. Tell me a little bit about the lineup this year.
Yes, we've got an incredible lineup. Christine Sinclair, the likes of Christine Sinclair, which we have to start with her. Allison Lang, who's a Paralympic bronze medalist in sitting volleyball.
Yes.
We have Monica Wright-Rogers, who's the general manager of the Toronto Tempo. And just, an amazing lineup of guests, as you've said, who can really speak to all elements of what the women's sport ecosystem includes.
Yes, and really this is to basically share ideas, inspire each other, but also help shape the future of women in sports.
Exactly. This is really one of the only gatherings of its kind in Canada that's dedicated to women's sport. So it's really an opportunity to get people in the same room who maybe don't often have an opportunity to cross paths and start to spark ideas and change. We actually have a story about in the first year there was an attendee that came and then went and actually wrote a whole strategy about attracting women's sport. This is Explore Edmonton, and trying to build a whole strategy around women's sport. So we can see change in action, which is really special.
I love that. And then some of the guest speakers that you just mentioned, we're going to be interviewing them a little bit later this morning. One of them being Monica Wright with the Toronto Tempo. This is going to launch in Toronto next year, 2026. But what will be interesting is to understand the behind the scenes, the strategy, the business aspect of sports.
Absolutely, and there's such an important layer to consider with women's sports when you're thinking about the strategy. Of course, all the usual things apply when you're trying to build partnerships in sport business, but with women's sports specifically, again, going back to that research, because there's such a cultural resonance, we actually found 41% of Canadians feel that investing in women's sport is investing in the future of Canada. So really it speaks to the broader value set that people see in women's sport and what makes it such a special value proposition from a business perspective.
And let's talk about some of these female athletes. We now see them moving on to an actual career in sports, which was never the case, even just 10 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. The opportunity for the athletes that the professionalization of women's sport in Canada offers is just really, really amazing. We're going to have an investor panel today. Christine Sinclair is on that panel as an investor in the Vancouver Rise. So, it's really allowing athletes a broader career path and future, and really involving them in helping shape the future of women's sport.
So I know today's event is sold out, but if people want to follow up and, follow along with all the other events, information, that kind of stuff, where can they go?
Yeah, ESPNWSummitCanada.com has the full agenda. It will have pictures, and actually we post a lot of the sessions on that website after the day. So if people want to hear what our amazing speakers had to say, they can go to that website.
Okay, and so this is the third annual. I assume this is going to keep going for the next level.
That's the hope. I mean, women's sport is on a rocket ship, but we need to sustain the momentum. We need to make sure it's not just an exciting moment, that it actually is a movement that continues to grow.
Okay, Jessica, thank you. You can see they're getting the stage ready. I love the fact that he's making it perfect because that's what it's about. And again, if you want more information, ESPNW Summit Canada.ca. Stick around because we have an exciting lineup of guests that we're going to be talking to. We're talking about Sam Rapaort from the NFL, Monica Wright from the Toronto Temple. So much this morning. We're talking about 350 participants coming in, world-class speakers that are going to take to the stage, and very special guests. For example, Sam Rapaort with the NFL. Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so you've had many titles with the NFL. Currently, you're a consultant with them.
Yep.
And your goal is to really have more and more women with a job in the NFL.
Yeah, absolutely. About 10 years ago, I was standing on the sidelines of a stadium at MetLife, and I looked around and I was asking myself, where are all the women, right? In a sport where 47% of our fan base is made up of women, we weren't represented on the football side, the true football roles in the NFL, and I wanted to be the one to change that, so I did.
So you created a program there, and it was to really be dedicated to try and recruit more and more women into the NFL. And you've done a really good job because we were looking at, 250 women within the NFL, and that number is growing?
Yeah, absolutely. When we started the program, there were no women in coaching roles, and we had about 2 or 3 women in scouting roles in the NFL. And fast forward 10 years now, we have 15 women in full-time coaching roles in the NFL, which is more than any male professional sports league in the world. And now, this year, for the first time ever, we have a woman in a scouting role at all 32 NFL teams. So we've gone from basically zeros across the board in 10 years to progress very quickly, and that was because, we had an intentional effort to find ways to connect these women who are working in football with people who could get them jobs, and that's what happened.
How did you fall in love with the sport?
I started playing when I was 12 years old.
Yes.
And it was luckily, I grew up in Ottawa, and it luckily was available in my high school, in my middle school, and also in the community. And I started playing, and I felt, very average at every sport I played. I played basketball and track, and I felt okay at them. But once I threw a football, I felt really good at something.
Yeah.
And as a young adolescent girl, that is everything, to fall in love with something that makes you who you are. And football started to define me in high school, and then it continued to define me in life. And so when it became time to pick a career, there was nothing else I wanted to do.
First of all, I find it hard to believe that you were average at certain sports. I feel like you excel at everything that you do. But what's really kind of cool now is, even 10 years ago, women wouldn't have a career in sports beyond, amateur sports. Now we're seeing them in all different areas of the business, and it is a business. So that's really cool to see. What's your perspective on the football side of things?
Yeah, it's really amazing where we started in 2017, and we started to get a few women into roles. And then what happened was, as those women got more senior, they sent the elevator down and brought up the next generation of women.
Yeah.
And so it's so critical to have representation, not just for women, for all people, for people of color, for the LGBT community, for people with disabilities, everyone, to have themselves in the office, because then the elevator gets sent down for everyone. Right. And so now we're seeing there are several generations of women in the NFL now. It's not new anymore. It's starting to be closer and closer to ubiquity, which is what our ultimate goal is.
What I thought was really cool recently with the Super Bowl is that there was a female coach at the Super Bowl. Like that to me was a huge milestone to hit.
There were 2 actually, 1 year, and also a female official. And so in the same Super Bowl, we had a female owner of a team, and Darcy Glazer-Kasowitz of the Buccaneers. We had a female official, Sarah Thomas, and we had 2, Maral Jabbar-Difar and Lo Locust, coaching in the Super Bowl. So that was such a pinch me moment for so many of us who are working in this space, because it was symbolic for the progress that we've seen.
So we've made huge steps, huge strides in this progress, but obviously it's a long road ahead. What more needs to be done so that we can make this more inclusive, not only for the NFL, but what you see in other leagues as well? Yeah,
first we need more firsts to happen, because we need to get past them. I'm not big on the first female this and that. That's not really where my passion lies. My passion lies in flooding the pipeline to make sure that when it becomes time to get a job, the best candidate can get a job, and there are women and people of color in that pipeline. Right. And that's really what I'm passionate about. And then the future of that is on the inclusion side, is making sure that our office spaces and our training camps and our everything isn't set up for the default male all the time, and that there are opportunities for women, for moms, for people who have a different perspective than men to thrive as well as men can.
Oh my gosh, I could talk to you all morning,
Let's
Sam.
do it.
It is so inspiring just to hear your story and just to see where things are with women in sports. We thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
And so Sam is just one of the many special guests that you'll see here at the ESPNW Summit. It is a sold out event, but for more information and to catch some of those interviews online, all you have to do is go to ESPNWSummitCanada.ca. This is Monica Wright. She is the general manager of the Toronto Tempo.
Happy to be
I
here
know
with
you have
Jean.
Lily Singh as your chief hype officer. Can I be like her sidekick and bring on as well?
Absolutely. We would love to have you. The more hype, the better.
Okay, so I've always said this, I've noticed this for many, many years now. Canada has really become a basketball country, and I'm so excited that the Toronto Tempo is coming. What are you most excited about with being a part of the Toronto Tempo?
You know, I just can't wait for our players, you know, the players that we decide to sign. I can't wait for them to experience this. The fan base here is just so locked in. They're excited. Like you said, there's a basketball appetite here, and for women to have a piece of that is amazing, and it's amazing for women's basketball globally.
Now, we know that the expansion draft date hasn't been set yet, maybe possibly around December. What's your vision for Toronto Temple in terms of the kind of players you want to bring in?
Well, first and foremost, we want people that are culture leaders, people that can really come into this space, come into this country and give to it as much as it's going to give to them. And then on the court, you know, we understand that the game is modernizing. The game has evolved, and so three-point shooting, being able to score at multiple levels is something that every player must have to be able to be successful in this league. Now, the head coach is not hired yet, and they will have a big say-so in how we play and the concepts that we play at. But there are some things that just win in this league, and so I really want to lean into those analytics and make sure that we have that on our roster.
So watching what's happening right now in the WNBA, the game has been elevated to a whole other level. That must be exciting for you to see as a former player.
Absolutely. I mean, I was in the league when we were flying Southwest and we were staying at Holiday Inns in Tulsa, and, you know, we were just happy to be there. And so to see these players really approach this game and approach the league in such a professional way, I'm very proud of them, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
We have megastars that have entered this past year in the WNBA, and because of that, you see sold out games. That looks so promising for the league in itself.
Absolutely, and I think the league is taking note of that. I think outsiders and people that want to invest in the WNBA and women's sports are taking note of that, and I just hope that this continues to grow, and I'm excited about just all the possibilities for women's sports.
Now, I might be a little biased because I'm a Toronto girl, but I think Toronto Tempo is going to be amazing, and then you have some pretty cool investors. Let's mention Serena Williams, Lily Singh, just to name a couple. I just think it's going to be wild for Toronto fans to possibly see Serena Williams in the building. I mean, like, what is she like?
Royalty,
Yeah.
Sports royalty. I think she just transcends so many levels of sports and excellence that anywhere you go in the world, if you ask them if they know Serena Williams, they do. And she just carries such a level of a winning mentality with her that I just hope that trickles on to every bit of our tempo culture.
Oh, I think it absolutely will. And she's the GOAT, right? And then, of course, we love Lily Singh. I just interviewed her just a couple weeks ago. I asked her about being the chief hype officer. She is psyched. She's ready to go. I can't think of a better person in this role.
And it just goes to show you that when women support women, magical things happen. And to have her at the helm of leading the charge and pushing our name and our team and our, you know, everything about the tempo forward is amazing. And someone so, you know, well known in this Toronto community and the Canadian culture, I'm honored to have her on board.
So we're here at the ESPNW Summit Canada. There's so many change makers, world-class speakers, and we're really having this important conversation about women and sports and advancing the game. What would you like to see in terms of basketball on the NBA side as well as the WNBA side to advance the sport and open opportunities for women?
Well, great question. I think we're already kind of doing that. You know, I think just consuming it, more so. I understand that the NBA has its own evolution, but for the women's side, the WNBA, I just want more people to consume all the things that we offer. And the WNBA has so many unique stories that are just untold. And, I can't wait for those stories to get uncovered and that these women get the proper stage that they deserve.
I can't wait for Toronto Tempo to get ready for 2026, and you are absolutely the right person as the GM in this role.
Thank you, G.
Yes, oh my gosh. Okay, so the more information on the summit is ESPNW Summit Canada.ca, and follow Monica, follow Toronto Tempo. Get ready for an exciting year in 2026. We're having such incredible conversations here at the ESPNW Summit Canada. It's the third annual event, sold out, and we had a chance to speak to the general manager of Toronto Tempo as well as a consultant with the NFL. Now we have an athlete. This is Allison Lang, and she is a Paralympian medalist. Thank you.
Thank you for having me here today.
Okay, so that's the bronze Paris Games.
It is, yeah. We actually made history. We brought home the very first Paralympic medal in sitting volleyball back home to Canada ever. So that's really exciting to put Canada on the map for adaptive sports and sitting volleyball.
What was that moment like when you were standing on the podium and you were receiving the medal?
Oh, it felt surreal. I think a part of my inner child healed. I never found a place in sport with my disability. I really struggled with my body image growing up. I was severely bullied. And to be part of a bigger movement now, the Paralympic movement, feels so special to me because, disability isn't if, it's when. Everyone becomes disabled at a moment in time in their life. And I think to put adaptive sports on the map and to make it, inviting and competitive the way that it is, more people can turn to that and find a place where they belong.
You're such a role model, not only in sports, but you're also an actual model with campaigns with anthropology and Reitman's. So you're really breaking down those barriers and making change.
Absolutely. Yeah. Representation matters so much. I think that universal design and the way that we view ourselves and other people is so important. And why not, display diverse bodies? That way, we're not in that comparison factor within ourselves and don't get down on ourselves, because I think that everybody deserves to be celebrated regardless of what it looks like.
Absolutely, I agree with that. And you don't rest. You're already in training, getting ready for the next games, which will be in LA. But what happens next in terms of competition?
Yeah, so we had a little bit of a break, which was well needed to get some rest after the games, and now we're gearing up. I was just in Denver with my team. We're headed to the Netherlands for a Dutch tournament in July. And our first qualifier is next July in 2026 in China.
Good luck.
We'll
be cheering you on. I love volleyball. I know you've played volleyball, and now you also play sitting volleyball. Yeah. What do you have to do in terms of strategy as an athlete playing sitting volleyball? Because it is a slightly different game.
Yeah, a lot of people don't really know how sitting volleyball is played. Yeah. So actually we have almost all the same rules. It's 6-on-6. The court is slightly smaller. It's 10 meters by 6 meters big. We're sitting directly on the floor. So we're not in wheelchairs. We're not on rolly tables. Yeah. And we can actually block a serve. And then it's same bump set, spike, that kind of stuff. The game is a lot faster because you don't have that depth to, defend the way that you do when you're standing and can dive and get a ball. You're already on the ground. So it's quite faster, it's competitive, and I actually encourage anybody that wants to try sitting volleyball to try it. You can play recreationally, but if you have a disability, come join our national team.
Oh my goodness, yeah. There you go. I love that. I love the fact that it's a faster game. That would make it more exciting to play.
It's very exciting to watch as well.
Oh, yeah. Wonderful. Allison, I've always said that listening to athletes and their journey is inspiring, not only for other athletes, but for people in general. So I'm so glad you're here. What do you hope to get in terms of a message out to the audience today?
Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm the only Paralympian on the panel today, and so I'm more excited to connect and learn from other people, but I'm hoping they can take a bit of my story away with them today as well. Just, as far as building infrastructure, getting partnerships, how do we advertise and uphold Paralympians to the same equality of Olympians and their counterparts? There's been great changes in Canada alone this year. I mean, Paralympians got awarded the exact same monetary monetary value for the first time ever as their Olympic counterparts. And so I do see these equality changes being made, but I'm hoping that today, being in a room full of women that are trailblazers, they will continue to spread that message for me and for our community as well.
Well, you're a trailblazer, you're a change maker. Follow Allison. It's Allison Lang. You're going to love her social media platform. Thank you so much and congratulations.
Thank you. So good to be here.
And again, for more information, ESPNW Summit Canada.ca.